Hello, my stamping friends. How are you this evening? You can see, let me back up here. Can you see my shirt here? Believe, right? We never grow up and we stay kids, right? I wish I could still get on the, what is that called? The Polar Express. My littlest grandchildren got to go on that in Grapevine. They actually take the wine train and doll it all up for Christmas. Santa comes, Mrs. Claus comes. Isn't that just the most fun thing? Well, Monday was crazy today at work, but I'm so excited to be live with you. I want to show you some new products, and then I'm also going to show you a little treat thing that I did with our mini jam jars. And even if you don't have the mini jam jars, we'll talk about how you can do it another way. So let me flip the camera around, say hi to everybody that has joined in, and we will get rolling. Hey, Louise. Hey, Carol. So glad you guys could join in today. I actually still have my Christmas nails on from my work Christmas party last night, so that's kind of fun. Okay, before we start our project, I want to show you this little treat holder to give you an idea if you need a quick gift for work or your neighbors. Hey, Dawn. So glad you joined us tonight. So what I did is I just cut up 2 different designer series paper, made a little belly band around my jar, then I stamped a sentiment, and I actually cut it out with our Tasteful Labels dies. You know, that is my go-to die for so many things. If you don't have that, I would consider getting it. Then this is our black and white checked ribbon. I stamped the Christmas tree from our Evergreen Elegance stamp set, which is this right here, the tree. And then I also use this sentiment. It's friends like you that make this season so wonderful, from this same stamp set. And then I just put some of the little holiday jewels. I grounded my tree with a crumb cake marker just because I don't like it to be sticking in the air. And then these are just circles from our layering circle dies, and it's a little hard to see, but I used the wintry embossing folder to just make this little tree, the branches on there, and I filled it with little Hershey's Kisses. And this one actually I thought was kind of fun. It is a nutcracker that is Reese's on the inside. So if you don't have these mini jam jars, you could use a baby food jar, you could use a little canning jar. But my whole point in showing you this was just to think of how you can use little supplies you already have to make a real cute little treat holder. All right, here is the star of the show tonight. Isn't this little guy adorable? This is a Sale-A-Bration stamp set that's coming in the January-February Sale-A-Bration. Now, look here at all these fun little otter images, and we've got it's birthday time, and you are utterly awesome. This little hat, his birthday hat, could go on any of these little images after you stamp him. It's a cling stamp set, so it's kind of sticking to my fingers. Even in the water, he could be wearing a birthday hat. Isn't that just the cutest thing? So if you're not familiar with Sale-A-Bration, we used to only have one in the year, but now we have two, January, February, and this year it was August and September. And when you spend $50, you get to choose a free gift. If you spend $100, you can choose two of the $50 ones or one of the $100 one. Those of you that have purchased from me, you should be getting your spring mini catalog and your Sale-A-Bration catalog in the mail. If you don't have a demonstrator, chat me privately and I'll make sure you get the catalogs. Okay, so let's get cracking so I can tell you how we made this. So I first took a piece of 5.5 by 8.5 excuse me, cardstock, and this is cinnamon cider. And I'm going to use my bone folder here to give it a good crease. And then I'm also using a piece of cinnamon cider that's 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And if you look real closely, you might think, what embossing folder is that? I've never seen it before. You're right, it is new, and it is the Gingham embossing folder. It is a regular embossing folder. It's not one of the 3D ones, so you just use it with your platform and your two clear plates. So what I did is I just stuck this little piece of cardstock in here, and then I rolled it through my embossing folder. Whenever you're running it through the embossing folder, you always want to put the hinge part in first. That way it won't ruin your embossing folder. And for those of you that are just joining us, hi, Teresa. I will say hi to everybody in the comments, answer your questions. Oh, Carol said she got her catalog on Saturday. She's going to be broke again. Well, hey, join the club here, Miss Carol. Why should I be the only one going broke? Okay, so the next layer on our card is this piece right here. I used a 6x6 piece of the Neutrals card pack. And I want to show you how I cut it, and you're going to see that we're not really going to waste any of it. So I wanted my cinnamon cider to show a little bit. So I'm going to cut this piece at 4 inches by 5.25 inches. And we're going to have these two little pieces left over here, and I'll show you what we're going to do with those in a little bit. But first, what we need to do is adhere this piece of DSP to our card base. And I am making this card. The reason I'm using these neutral colors is I wanted to make a card that could be used as a masculine card or a feminine card, and I think this fits the bill. Next, we're going to layer on our square here that we ran through our embossing folder. And I think I've showed you before that if your adhesive doesn't roll, always you just roll it on your silicone mat and then it will go easy peasy. All right, we're going to just put this down right here. Then another new product coming is these Heart and Home Doilies. There are cinnamon cider ones in the pack. There are basic gray, and there are misty moonlight. Now, I am actually going to use a misty moonlight one here. And I wanted this cutout to be roughly the same size as this doily. So I got out my layering circles, and then I just started picking up my dies to see which one was the closest. Well, it's this one right here, which just happens to be the biggest one. So I'm going to go ahead and secure this doily down. I'm just going to put a little adhesive underneath there. I don't need to put a ton of it. Now let me bring in my cutter here and show you what I do to figure out the size that I need to cut. Is I put my die right down on my cutter. Right here is the track, so I move it in just a little bit, and then I come over here and figure out, okay, what is that measurement? Well, it is actually 3.5. So then I cut my paper, which I did, right like this, and you can see there's just very, very little waste at the end. I'm going to go cut this out behind me using my Stampin' Cut and Emboss. Machine. I didn't say machine. I said I was going to use my Stampin' Cut and Emboss. Well, it is the machine that I am going to use. So let me zip over here and get that. I wanted to show you how I measured, so that's why I didn't cut it out ahead of time. So let's just get this cut out. All right. Okay, here is my piece. Now, if you had wanted a smaller one, you do the same thing. You just take your die, put it here on your trimmer, move it over just a skosh, and then you see here it's 3.25. So instead of the 3.5, I would have done the 3.25. Isn't that just easy peasy? All right, now I wanted to pop this part up with Stampin' Dimensionals just to give a little bit more interest to my card. So I'm going to just use 4 of these little Stampin' Dimensionals. All right. Peel that off. All right. Then we're just going to place this. I just want a little bit of the doily to show. Now, I have stamped my little otter, and now we're going to color him with our Stampin' Blend. So I've chosen the Petal Pink Light marker. Now, if you have not used these Stampin' Blends, I want to tell you I love these. The way I color with them, I start with my lightest color first. A lot of my demo friends like to do the dark first and then come back in with the light. But I just like to start with the light and then I'll come back in if I want to add any dark. Now, on his little tummy here, I don't. I want to just have it be the petal pink. And do you notice what I'm doing is I am just making little tiny circles, okay? And I'm coloring his little ears and his feet. And I actually grabbed my dark crumb cake first, which is not normally how I do it, but I'm going to show you that it really doesn't matter. So I'm just adding a little dark around here. Let's put a little here where these lines are. Then I'm going to come right back in on top of this, and then I'm going to color with my light. I'll show you what we're going to do with his eyes here in just a minute. But we're just going to blend, 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 and go right over where I did the dark. And I'm making, probably a little hard for you to tell, but I'm just making little tiny circles. Some people color like this, kind of just little flicks. And that is fine too. As it dries, it really doesn't matter how you color. That is the beauty of the Stampin' Blends as opposed to the markers. The markers are great for coloring to smaller spaces or using with a blender pen, but these Stampin' Blends work just so much more smoothly, I think, for the blending. Okay, now can you see we've got just a little bit of the dark highlights there on his body, but it all blends in. Now I'm going to take my light black marker, color in his little eyes and his little nose here. And if you wanted, you could use googly eyes and, you know, those ones you get usually for a Halloween. But I wanted to just color him in and make him look a little more natural. Now, I've taken my layering circle. I'm going to go back to my cut and emboss machine and cut him out. Okay, here we go. And there he is. Isn't he just the cutest little guy you've seen? Then what I'm going to do is get some more of my adhesive. Oh, let me show you one thing. See here how it does kind of bleed through the back? That is why I use a piece of cardboard or something that gives a little bit of thickness. So if it does bleed, you won't wreck your table, or if you're stamping at your friend's house, you won't wreck their table, and I'm sure they will really appreciate that. Okay, now, I took that You Are Utterly Awesome. Again, I went to my Tasteful Labels dies, and I took this die, this little pennant, and I cut that out. And here actually are all of the dies. Seriously, guys, this is my go-to label set. It's got circles, it's got all these different shapes, and it's just so fun to use. All right, now we're going to need some more dimensionals, only a couple, right like that. Take off, and I wanted to just do this at an angle because I just thought it made it a little more interesting. So now this is linen thread. Can you see this here? So I am just going to tie this in a bow, and Then I'm just going to pull it to make my little loops the size that I want. And then I am going to grab a glue dot from my bag of glue dots. I have so many of these glue dots, guys, because I get paper pumpkin and I just save them because they always give you so many extra ones. And my sweet friend Carol, who I know is watching this live, she gives me a lot of hers that she has left over. So I am in great shape with dimensionals and glue dots. All right, there we go. Okay, now I'm just going to stick this little bow there, and I think I'm going to just let this hang down. This one I cut a little bit, but I think it's just cute. Now, remember those other two pieces that we had left over? Well, here is where I put this one. On the inside, this is also just a piece of basic white cardstock cut to 4 by 5 1/4, and then I put that down. Okay, now this last little piece, look here what I did. Here's an envelope, and I just put it on here, and I trimmed right around there, and you've got a cute little backing for your envelope. Now, some of you may say, I don't like that little, white area. I want it to cover the whole thing. Well, not a problem. Here is a piece, another piece that's in that neutral 6 by 6 pack. This happens to be Night of Navy, but guess what? Who is going to know? This matches kind of the inside here of the Misty Moonlight. So if you wanted something to cover that up, you could take the back of this sheet, or you could use the front, but whatever you like. Then you could just put it on there and snip it off right here. I don't want to cut my envelope. And then come over and do the same thing. Let me just put it down here. There. Okay. Then you just come over, snip this little guy off, and look, then you've got such a pretty envelope there. And if you wanted, you could stamp a little otter up here. One thing, I have a couple customers that work for the post office, and they said, don't ever stamp down here in this real estate on the envelope. That is for the postal service, and depending which post office you get, they will be very, very unhappy, perhaps. So thanks, Kay. I think it's a pretty cute card, and I wanted to give you guys something to look forward to. So if you have any questions about anything I showed you or anything else, just leave me a comment, send me an email, and we will connect. You guys have a great night, and I'll see you next time.